So Hi-Res Ajax made a fairly, in my opinion, tone-deaf comment on Reddit the other day that actually kind of prompted this video, where he not only said that they're going to do a good job on a hybrid Smite UI that will work for both PC and console, uh, but that a commenter was not giving very helpful feedback because they simply said that the new UI didn't really feel good. I don't know if that's their exact words. It's been deleted since then, but I know it's not necessarily Ajax's job, right, to know what a good and bad set of UI feedback is, but it kind of is mine. So, hello, I guess my name is Gray, and I've been doing UI design for a small software company for about 2 years now, and I've been a UX designer for the past 8 months in the same company. So by trade, I'm a programmer, and I'm kind of a UI designer by necessity in my company, but keep in mind that I'm definitely not the most qualified person to be talking here. I just seem to be the only one that really wants to dig into the UI of this silly little game, so that's what I'm spending my Saturday on. So I'm not a YouTuber, I'm just kind of a disturbed community member that cares a little bit, I guess, too much about UI design. So I'm making this video for two reasons. The first is to give Ajax and hopefully the rest of Hi-Res or Titanforge or whatever they're calling themselves, trying to give them an actual set of criticisms when it comes to the new UI that they're testing. And the second is to defend the little Reddit community that's looking at the new UI and saying that it just doesn't feel good or something like that. That is valuable feedback. I made kind of an angry response to Ajax on Reddit, trying to tell them that it's not the community's job to make your UI for you. The job of the UI designer is to try to make the community have as few of those little ew, it doesn't feel good kind of feelings as possible, and to turn those little ew feelings into actual tangible UI design, because the UI really shouldn't be something that you notice, right? It should feel clean, it should feel easy, and it shouldn't feel like what we're about to get into. So that's kind of the little rant. I'm sorry for singling out Ajax. It's just that we haven't had an actual dialogue from Hi-Res or Titan or whatever telling us exactly what they're going for with all of this. So he's kind of my victim here. Just one last thing before we get into it, and I'm sure I'm going to mention it a few times in the video. I'm going to address, I guess, the elephant in the room with all of these little UI notes, which is that Hi-Res has explicitly stated that they're trying to make the UIs between PC and the console the same. Now, I understand that they want to consolidate the UIs, right? But Hi-Res is literally just lying to us when they say that they're capable of making a UI that is both good for PC and good for console, because PC and console just conflict in terms of what the players need. Consoles, good console UI has big buttons, because people are often far away from the TV, and they've just got little joysticks to control their experience in the UI with, so they really struggle with those fine kind of motor movements that come really easy on a mouse. Also, just because the joysticks again and the buttons, they can't properly use tab systems, which is what most modern game UIs use nowadays. And this leads to just less information per page for a good console UI, because they need big fonts, big pictures, big buttons, and not very refined movements. So you get a lot less information per page than you would in a proper PC UI. Okay, so let's go ahead and start getting into this. So this, notification, this is the new Smite UI on the PC. So this is the user interface they said they've been working on since, I guess they said they've been working on it since last year. I definitely believe them. Please note that everything in the background looks like trash because I could not physically turn up any of my settings, and it is a PTS, I give them some leeway here, but I'm not physically able to change or apply anything, including full screen to windowed or borderless, so that's nice. I had to go into console settings to actually make the resolution decent, so you guys can hopefully see everything. But let's start with the good, because there is some good here. So for starter, I'm going to go with the icons. By icons, I mean things like this little chat bubble right there, this little person right here, exclamation point, all these things, right? So for starters, they match color-wise, which is good, and they're kind of intuitive. I'm sorry, this happens literally every 10 seconds. They're intuitive, right? So this little exclamation point, you'd think, oh, that's quests, right? This little present, oh, that's things to open every day, or a reward, right? These little people, oh, that's probably my friends. This little bell is, oh, that's probably notifications, and then this is, oh, probably menu, right? I would contend that this little menu should be a gear or something similar to that, because it is an options menu. But hey, they can pick what they want. I like this upper logo placement. If they're going to stick with this left-aligned thing, there's not much to say about that. Maybe it should be a little bit bigger, but at least it tells me, I know what game I'm in, so that's a start. They seem to have consolidated fonts. I don't know if you guys remember the old UI, but the old UI has pretty much a different font for every other thing that's in it. So it's good that they're starting to figure it out, that they just want this font. Hey, notification! I'm getting a lot of favor, boys. And there's a decent amount of relevant info on this page, right? So everything that I'd want to do, right? Play. If I want to go to Gods, I can go there. If I want to go to the store, I can go there. If I want to check out the Odyssey or Celestial Domination or whatever, these are all here. I have issues with that, but at least the information is there, right? So that's a start. Also, they seem to have relevant news properly functioning. You can't actually click through it, which is an issue, obviously. I hope that would be fixed as they go forward as a natural thing without me having to tell them, but yeah, so there is some good here. I got very relevant, player information at the top, relevant money information. It's kind of all there, which is the good news. I was actually very worried when they said they were going to consolidate PC and console UI that they would simply just start, lopping off information. But it seems they avoided that. So, all right, so that was the good. Now we got the bad. And for kind of time's sake and kind of organization's sake, I've split it up into 3 different sections. I'm going to split it up into color scheme, layout, and then consistency and experience. So color schemes, obviously colors and any issues I have with those. Layout would be where things are and why they maybe shouldn't be there. And then consistency and experience is kind of just how these different menus all play out and, oh wow, my god, and maybe how they can be improved, right? So if that doesn't sound fun to you, click away, go do something better with your life. This video is probably going to run fucking long. So yeah, let's do this. Color schemes. Alright, so the first real set of negatives we're going to be talking about here is color scheme. Now, color scheme can sometimes just be something you don't really notice, right? But then there's sometimes that it's done really, really well, and you notice it, and then there's sometimes that it's done really poorly, and you notice it. So we're going to ignore this kind of background, because my settings are on super, super low, so I'm not really going to judge high-res for that. What I am going to judge high-res for is this stuff right here. So they could make the argument that they were going for a kind of bronze color, but this is like a tan Adobe kind of color on this entire set of menus. And then it also doesn't match anything else. So for starters, let's talk about this tan, right? So in my 4-person software company, we have entire meetings about colors, right? I spent 2 days deliberating on the color of a graph because, I knew about, size of my software company, about like a couple thousand, we're not huge, but a couple thousand people would see it. And I didn't want to mess it up. Hi-Res has that, but with hundreds of thousands or millions of people potentially seeing this, and I can tell there was no meeting about this color, right? This is sad tan. No one deliberated and ended up on sad tan. Beyond that, and there's some people that'll like it. I could be persuaded towards like a bronzy color, but this really is not that, right? This looks like Donald Trump laid out in the sun a little bit too long or something like that, right? So beyond that, there's this kind of effect that's coming off of it every time you hover over something, and it comes off of everything. There's some menu that it was coming off of as well. Anyway, there's this yellowy color that's coming off of everything when you hover over it, and it just doesn't match the tan that's around it. And so you ask yourself, why? Why is this color not the same, right? Or at least why don't they complement each other? This is tan and yellow. It's not like anyone's like, damn, that's a color combo I want to see in my game, right? That's just weird. More color stuff. All right, so this little new indicator down here, this is a different blue than any other blue they're using here. This is the other blue they're using here, over here on this go to button. This is a different blue than this blue, which is different than this blue on the bottom. Why are there so many blues? And then that's different from the blue that's in the background of the logo, right? Which, by the way, the yellow on the logo is now different than the tan that's here, which is different than the yellow that's radiating off of the tan, which is different than the tan down here, which just nothing matches up. Right? You can have a color scheme, which is, by the way, different than the yellow that's here on the favor. You can have a color scheme, but that color scheme has to be, within reason, right? The 10 colors or less kind of thing, not 30 that's just apparent on this home menu, right? I understand it's not done yet, right? But you would expect them to be laying down a kind of a logical framework, right, where they say, these are our colors, we're going to use these for different things. That makes UI design so much easier when you start with figuring out what kind of colors you're going to go with, and then you go from there. Now, some other color bits. So this little purple right here, that shouldn't be purple, guys. This is a bright, like, Teletubby purple right next to a weird desert tan, which is meant to be bronze, and just nothing, and it doesn't match up with the blue here. And then, and I think the general strategy would just be to figure out one color that you want for these little indicators, right? Like this 2 and this new, and by the way, a single color for favor and gems, even if you want to go minimalist, or at least have it look cleaner. But yeah, that kind of color should match up with all colors of the sort, right? These little indicators. I'm not going to really go into why that doesn't match up with things in here, but this is clearly new. This top little back button, this is new, and yet this blue doesn't match this blue, doesn't match this blue, doesn't match this blue, doesn't match, by the way, this blue, which doesn't match really, well, it kind of matches this blue, so I'll give it these match. But right, you're kind of meant to have a scheme of 4 to 6. In my company's website, it's about 3 or 4, but I understand how a game UI would be a lot more than that. 4 to 6 to maybe 10 at the most colors that you're running through here, and that would just make the entire design process so much easier. But it's like they're trying to reinvent the wheel with every new little widget. Either that, or they're just rushing everything, right? So one other thing, just on color choices here. Why is this bright yellow? Why do you make a game and somewhere in the design process someone thinks this color should be bright yellow? There should never be a bright yellow unless your game is like Adventures on the Sun, right? This is just almost embarrassing. And I know it's super nitpicky. Please don't watch this video if you don't like people being super stupid nitpicky. But that just shouldn't be the color that's there. You can make an argument that this is the kind of bronze they should be using right here on the chat system, right? So chat system color could be fine. I don't like it, but it could be fine. But that now doesn't match up with this primary set of quote unquote bronzes that they're intending to use. So it doesn't seem like there were many color meetings over at Hi-Res Studios, right? And I'm going to keep bringing it up, but they said they've been working on this for a year, and you don't deliberate for a year and end up on Desert Tan. So that's all I'm going to say about color schemes necessarily. I'm going to try to keep this not super long as a video, but that's just almost inexcusable, right? And I'm going to show an example of a UI that's actually really good later, and we'll talk about color schemes in that as well. Layout. Okay, so now I guess we're talking about layout, and there's a lot of things to attack on the layout side. And again, I'm sorry if this video is like brutal, and like I'm doubly sorry if it comes off as super nitpicky. I know it is, but we can all get past it. If you're still here, I'm sure you're fine with it. All right. So first thing I'm going to talk about with layout here is chat. So new chat system is janky, very janky, right? They They clearly didn't want to put it in like the middle of the screen or something, and that I understand. But to that extent, you can't have this learn button here, because now when I click on the chat, there's a learn button in the background, one that I can't click on, probably for good reason, but there's this window that pops up. Then on top of that, if I chat and say things in the chat, I can only see the previous 2 things that were said. If chat's scrolling past at even a remotely, reasonable speed, I'm not going to have any idea what was said, 8 seconds ago, right? I want to be able to do other things and also look at the chat. So, I mean, there is that kind of fundamental, why did they put this in this spot? I know this is just version 1, but how are they going to fix that without restructuring the entire menu? So there's that. I'll kind of leave it because I'm pretty sure they're aware of it. I know the community's mentioned it many times already, but it's important. Chat's really important, and not to chastise the company by bringing up what year it is, but it's 2018. It is 2018, and your chat looks like that. You are a professional game studio. You have been for, I think, decades now. Your chat can't look like that. That is amateur stuff. All right. So I guess the next thing would be kind of the big one, which is this menu. So if you notice, you got play at the top. That kind of makes sense. I would argue there's a better way to do it, which would be to separate the play button. But, play at the top works. Then you have gods and store, which are, okay, they're subcategories, right? That works. Then you have Hera's Odyssey, which is a reward program, essentially. It's an event. Then you have Celestial Domination, which is a game mode. Then you have Season Ticket, which is, I guess, SPL stuff. It is SPL stuff. And then you have Ranked, which, by the way, isn't a ranked queue. I checked this. It is actually your ranked profile. And then Clan, Profile, and Learn, which, okay, I guess Clan and Profile kind of similar things, right? But what this is this is different categories of things all lined up next to each other, which is a problem in UI design. What you want out of a menu is for the menu to be the very top layer of things, and then to have subcategories or submenus, right? So I imagine you could put Clan and Ranked all under some kind of profile menu, right? That's how they have it now. You could have Hera's Odyssey under an event menu, right? Celestial Domination shouldn't be on the front page at all. It should be in the play button. So there's places that these things need to be going, and I'm worried, right? I promised I wouldn't mention it that much, but I'm worried that because they're merging PC and console, that they simply can't do that, right? They can't have any kind of complexity or depth in their menu, which just means that they have a very, very, very clunky menu. And that's a problem for them. So I'm not going to harp on it too much. I hope they're aware of it. If they push this live, I will be deeply ashamed. But, it is what it is. It can be usable. It's just not, it's not clean, and it's not the way a menu should be made. I think they know that. They just didn't have that many other ways to go about it, which is concerning. All right, next thing is borders. So they added these borders in this patch, which are up here at the top and down here at the bottom. For starters, you can imagine that if you're whispering someone with a name more than 4 characters, this little widget at the bottom that they just stuck out for artsiness sake, which by the way is not on the other side, that would just get in the way and that would block words. And that's one of those things that you just have to catch, if you're a UI designer. Moreover, if you go to the play button, this very top menu you can tell is the same as, oh my god, is the same as up here, but it's got this weird side border, and the side border doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't connect to anything. It doesn't connect to the bottom border. That's what a border is meant to do. So you can either have a side border or no side border, but if you're going to have the start of a side border, finish the side border. Moreover, there are these little indicators at the top. I'm sorry, I know how nitpicky this is. I know how stupid this sounds. But there are these little triangle indicators at the top that are pointing at nothing. There should be 3 buttons right there if they're going to have 3 triangular indicators at the top. And they don't. Like, why? I understand. Also, you can see the little last triangular border here, which means this is just plopped on the front of it. So this wasn't made for, a proper I guess I know it was made for a console UI, but I don't know where they got the idea that would look good in a PC UI now. So borders can be tricky. I get it, but at least make it so that when you have a border, it's serving some kind of purpose, right? If it's going to indicate things, have it actually indicate things, right? Don't just have it pointing at nothing, and don't have it stop. All right, we got some things to cover here. So the other thing would be favor and gem placements. This gem, I know this is tiny, but this gem symbol, this is closer to favor than it is to gems, right? These should seem like they're separate things. It feels very, very just cobbled together when it's favor symbol and then closer to the favor symbol than the favor symbol is a gem symbol, and it just feels very discombobulated there. And it shouldn't even, if you ask me, I'm gaining a lot of currency. I just noticed I'm actually gaining favor as I'm clicking OK to this. These should not be in the top middle of the page. Maybe if you put them over like where my relevant information to my account is, that would be a smoother way to design this UI. But instead it's just like off here in the middle of nowhere. It doesn't have any kind of indicator that this is my currency. I can't click on it. I don't go to shop when I click on it. Nothing happens up here. Like, I understand if you're an experienced Smite player that this is obvious, but you don't design UI for the experienced players. You design it for the new players. So there's that. And kind of on a broader point related to that is you need to be indicating what people are looking at, right? So this isn't just for cleanliness' sake. This is for longevity's sake, being able to update the UI as you go, right? Because Hera's Odyssey won't be there forever. You're going to have to change this exact widget somewhere down the line. Similarly, this should say maybe in the shop or something like that. Hera's Odyssey should be under some kind of events, maybe not tab, but some kind of events category. Where if you have a new event next week, you can just change the words, maybe change the logo, right? Because as you have so much content in a game, you start to run into issues when everything is its own little custom widget, and it has to be completely remade for the next patch, So it's one of those things that can really happen when you're rushing content. I know it's happened a couple times on my company's website, and it's something we've learned from, right? And it does not seem to be something that Hires has learned from, which is, again, a problem. Little things. Why does this button say go to and then have Hera's Odyssey directly under this? Why doesn't this button say Hera's Odyssey? Silly things like that. It's the little things that start to tweak people out and make them not feel like this is a smooth UI. Those are those little feelings that they have where things just feel off. These little numbers, these aren't in the middle of these squares. That's a little thing that makes it feel off. That makes it feel janky. That makes this entire UI feel a little bit janky. This little number is too small and not aligned to be next to this person, right? That just feels janky. So the general takeaways would be to just build things modularly, put them into sections and categories where people can access information easily. So not only is it easier on the players, but it's easier for your future selves when you just need to change little bits of the UI here and there, i.e. when you have the next Odyssey that doesn't say Hera there, you can have that under some kind of what's the current Odyssey kind of tab, right? But the current layout, it feels very cobbled together, and that's why. So yeah, that's all I really have to say about layout. I think the last thing is consistency and experience, so we'll get into that.
Consistency and experience.
So the last thing I'm going to talk about here is consistency and experience. And I think in a lot of ways that can, for player experience anyway, that can boil down to kind of a feeling of love, which I'll get into in a little bit. But in terms of player experience on these menus, there's some things that you would see from a company that really, really cared about their menu experience. So when I take my mouse here and I hover it over here, this animation instantly appears, right? That's a pop-in animation, and the animation is going, I know you probably can't tell on my 30 frame recording, but the animation's going about 15 to 20 frames per second. You can literally see it ticking through the animation. right? So not only did they probably Google this animation, but it just magically pops in, and it doesn't change size based off of where you are in this menu. This is just a cobbled together. It like stretches out. it's just cobbled together. And the fact that it just like pops in magically, and then I click on play. This doesn't fade into a new screen. This doesn't feel consistent. This feels like a completely different game than when I click play. So the magical pop in and out of certain buttons is a bad thing. And then there's just experience things. Why can I not click on an empty part of my party and add a friend to my party? Why can't I do that? Why do I have to go into friends and then click on old Badgen's name and invite him to my party? Why do I have to do that? Also, why is send gift in all caps? What is that about? Anyway, it's just little things that just make it feel unsmooth. There's that entire set of customization options, right? Where you'd put your firework type, your jump stamp, your announcer pack. I don't know where those are. I have no idea where in all of these menus those are, and I haven't been able to find it. So I don't know if they just removed them, but if I can't find where it is, how the hell are you expecting a new player to find where it is? And other things like normally when you click on a games logo, it takes you to the home page, right? I understand why nothing happens here. I'll show you an example where something cool does happen. But there should be a Smite logo here, and maybe something at the top to give you information, because there just is none right now. So yeah. So in terms of consistency and experience, it's all the little pop-ins, it's all the little overused, this specific overused animation. It really feels cobbled together, which I know I'm trying to explain why it feels that way, but to a random player that doesn't have experience in user interface design, and I don't honestly have a ton of experience in user interface design, it's a couple years, right? But to a random player that doesn't have any experience in user interface design, this just feels janky, and they can't put their finger on it, right? They can't say that 20 FPS animation that matches every single one of these other 20 FPS animations feels janky, right? They just don't have the experience to say that. And so I feel like as a community, we've been talked down to by Hi-Rez in general when they pretend like that isn't valuable information. Because as a UI designer myself, if I got an email saying, you know, our website just feels janky, that would set off every alarm bell in my head, and I would try to figure that out. Right? I would spend days trying to figure that out, because that's what you do as a UI designer. Anyway, I'm not going to rant too much against Hi-Rez. I've been doing it for 6 years, and I'm kind of over it. So I'm just going to show you, hopefully, an example of a good UI here, just to close it all out, right? Put a little bow on this stupidly long video. So if you haven't been able to tell, the good UI is Dota 2. So this is Dota 2's UI. Now, there's a lot of stuff on this page. And part of that is because this is a really big game with a lot of information they need to try to convey to their general player base. But so is Smite. The thing is, this is just showing a lot more information, and that's kind of a choice. But when someone clicks onto the Dota 2 page, they instantly kind of have a reaction of you know, there was some effort put into this UI design, right? You see how we're already on this homepage? If I click on this, this lights up. That's cool, and it lights up when we're on the page itself, right? So this shows me that we're currently on the page, and then we're on another page. I click it. It gives a cool animation. They custom did that animation. That is really nice. When I have a friend that I want to add to my party, I go down and I click the empty party icon right next to my little my little icon, and I can add my friends from there. That feels really nice. That feels smooth, right? Their system, they have these upper tabs that are all their basic information, right? You can go to Heroes, you can go to Store. It's kind of like going Gods and Store and Smites. But if you remember Smites, the next thing was Hera's Odyssey. And then it was, Season Ticket, something like that. As you go down, those just aren't the same categories, right? So then under Watch, they have all the subcategories of things for you to watch. Competitive Dota. Or casual. I don't actually play Dota. I genuinely have no idea what's going on in this game, and yet I'm kind of taken by how nice this menu is. They've got all their tutorials here. and they actually show their gameplay updates. Like, what the hell? This actually impressed me, and it shouldn't, right? Again, we're in 2018. This kind of thing shouldn't be impressive, and yet here I am as an experienced Smite player. I'm like, oh my god, good UI. What is this? This is incredible to me. When you hover over these different menu options, they fade in instead of just existing, and when you click on them, there's a nice little temporary animation, but it's nice, and it lights up the different tab you're on. You can see there's a visual, the tab pops out compared to the other tabs. That's really, really nice. There's custom animations everywhere. Look. What is that? What is that? That is beautiful. When you hover over different characters, because they know they have too many characters in the game, but they don't want to remove them, so they make this really nice way for you to see different characters. And then their system of distinguishing. So if I wanna say a melee pusher character that's also an initiator, boom, we sorted the entire list in 3 clicks. That's incredible to me. As I said, I think it's a good idea for the play button to be separate, right? Where at the we just had a play button at the top of our weird side menu, and that could be debated. But you know, it's just, you look at this UI, right? You see the background, how there's like fog floating around, and there's little specks of dust in the air, and it's like a very like tranquil but like kind of ominous background of like fog, and you know there's like a battle that's been here. That's really cool, and it changes when you go to a new tab. The background does, and it like speeds up animation and then slows down. That is so cool. And I don't mean to sit here and just, you know, fawn over Dota's UI, because there's issues here too, right? There's too many colors, arguably. You know, notably they are denoting certain things, right? And this one's an ad, so you know there's only so much you can do. But you can tell when you look at this UI, which is the main difference. If you take nothing else from this video, the main difference between Smite UI and Dota 2 UI is that Dota 2 UI has love put into it. And you can tell that there was love put into it, right? Someone sat down and fawned over this thing, and they toiled at making this so user-friendly and pretty that it shows. And yet, you tab over to Smite's UI, and you're like, what the hell is this? What is this thing that's in front of me? What? I know it's a low-textured thing, but what the hell is this? Why is this tan? You know, it's just so many gut reactions, and you ask yourself, well, why does the community just not feel good about it? Why do they just put a single Reddit comment that says ew and then leave? And that's why. Because they've seen Dota, you know, they've seen games that know what they're doing here, and they see Smite, and they can't put their finger on it, but it is so much worse. It is so much worse to be a Smite player and look at the UI and the polish of your game than it is to be a Dota player. Or I think LoL's or League of Legends' UI is better than Smite's. Right? I'm a MOBA player, so it's generally my experience field. But it's just, there's love here, you know. There's subcategories and animations, and look at this. Look at it. He's going over the menu because it's supposed to be interactive. That is so cool. And I'm sitting here thinking, why the hell do I play Smite? You know? So it's just there's so much less love put into Smite's UI specifically, but Smite generally. And for that reason, I cannot imagine that they possibly could have spent a year making this, you know? So that's where I'm going to leave it. I'm sorry if this is just a rant video. I tried to break it up into actual tangible things that Hi-Rez can improve on. But the best thing Hi-Rez can improve on is to actually start caring. You know, hire actual UI designers, put the money and, more importantly, the love into this that it deserves. And then, as far as actual tangible advice, separate the PC and the console UIs. Console UI is not meant for PC players, and PC UI is not meant for console players. You can consolidate the console UI, make it so it's the same on Switch and Xbox and PS4, because all of those experiences are, you know, generally similar, right? Consolidate those UIs, but leave the PC separate, and hire actual designers to make it. So yeah, that's all I really got to say. I'm sorry for just droning on for, I think this is well over 30 minutes now. But hey, you know, someone's got to tell Hi-Rez. Alright everyone, that does it for my first and final video, because I'm never going to do this crap again. This sucked and wasted an entire day. Please do not subscribe to me, because I could not give less of a shit. What you should do is you should go on Twitter and you should go at HiResAjax, at HiResScott, at Shazam, at TitanClumsy, at HiResFish, at HiResMaria, at HiResChris, at Matt Brodery. Fix your UI, please. Or just link them to my video. I'll tell them to fix it for you. But that's it everyone. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a good night. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Good night, guys.